They said Canada only befriended their son because he had a few dollars.
Their son's on a disability Social Security check. And every first of the month, he'd be there to pick him up, you know, to, I guess, so he'd spend his money on him.
In an exclusive interview, Bobby Canada told Court TV what happened on the day of the crash. He said he and a lady friend, Kay Doan, spent the day driving, drinking, and doing drugs.
We just ride around and visit people and party from one house to the next in different locations. I'd probably taken 2 or 3 Xanaxes during the course of the day and drinking 12 beers. We'd smoked a little bit of pot too.
Several hours later, the pair bumped into Joe Pruitt and Charlie Bryant in Williamsburg, Kentucky.
That's when we started talking to them, and they asked us if we wanted to go party with them. You know, I asked Kay, and she said, well, yeah, you know, we might as well continue. If we're going to go to party with them, that's fine.
But first, Bryant said he wanted to drop off his truck at his house, and he asked him to pick him up there later on. After Bryant left, Pruitt asked Canada for his gun.
He said, Bob, do you have your pistol with you? And I said, yeah. And he said, can I borrow it? I want to be in control of what goes on tonight. You know, I'm going to be handling a lot of money. There's going to be some stuff going on.
According to Canada, the stuff that Pruitt was referring to was a major drug deal that Pruitt and Bryant had been planning for several weeks.
They had told me about it because they was going to give me the opportunity to sell some of the stuff and use some of the stuff. I smoked marijuana and I sniffed cocaine with them, and we all just had a good time. We was all friends.
Canada claimed that Pruitt and Bryant had a history of illegal drug dealing.
They'd done business for 10 or 15 years that I know of. Joe took advantage of him in drug deals. He had used Charlie in numerous things. For instance, Joe had owned some vehicles in the past, and they had come up missing, and he would hire Charlie to take them and do an insurance job on them, burn them for him.
But the Bryants said Canada is a liar.
As far as we know, Charlie hadn't met him.
According to Canada, this particular drug deal came at the perfect time.
It was getting close to Christmas, and I was game. I was ready to get some free drugs, get high for free, and plus make some money. You're talking about 200 or 300 pounds of marijuana and 10 or 20 kilos of cocaine, and if I would have sold an ounce of cocaine for $1,000 or $1,200, or a pound of marijuana for $1,000 or $1,200, and we're talking 200 or 300 pounds, then I could have made $20,000 or $30,000.
Canada also knew that Pruitt was planning to double-cross the dealers because Pruitt had asked him to find a place to hide. So Canada introduced him to his friend, Linda Raper.
He was going to be robbing these people, and he was going to be staying with Linda till he sold the drugs and stuff and left town. He was just going to be gone. And he didn't want those people to find him, you know, that he was going to be robbing.
At about 7 p.m., Bobby Canada, Kay Doan, and Joe Pruitt picked up Charlie Bryant at his house. Then, Canada said they all drove to Piney Grove Church, where Pruitt had left his car earlier in the day.
When we got there, Joe and Charlie said, well, we're going to use the bathroom. So they got out of the car and got into his car, and me and Kay sitting there listening to the radio, and it's nice out and stuff. And they got in the car and drove out of sight behind the Piney Grove Church.
Canada and Doan waited. 5 minutes later, Pruitt returned. Bryant was nowhere in sight.
Joe pulls back up by himself, and he says, Bob, I need you to go with me and help me just a second. So when we pulled back around behind the church, at Piney Grove Church, there lay Charlie on the ground. And when I get out of the car and look at him, he's bloody all over in the front of his face and stuff. And I said, what's going on, Joe? You know, what's going on? What are you doing? He said, nothing, Bob. You don't need to know what's going on. He said, I just need you to help me. He said, he's too heavy for me to lift. Well, at that time, I'm in shock. And Joe's picking him up and dragging him over to the car, and he's like, are you going to help me or what?
Canada said he helped Pruitt put Bryant in Pruitt's car.
He's ready to go, and he says, follow me on to Jellicoe. And I get in the car with Kay, and I'm feeling real crazy, you know, in shock. And Kay, she didn't know nothing about what was going on. She's still having a good time listening to the radio. We're still going to party as far as she knew.
In Jellicoe, Tennessee, Pruitt pulled off the side of the road while Canada watched in amazement.
Well, by the time I pull around in front of him and look back, he's let his car go over the bank. just lets it drive over the bank. It was in, you know, it was running and everything.
He and Doan watched as Pruitt set his car on fire with Bryant in it.
It's just, whoosh, catches on fire, and he pulls my door open. It's a little four-door car, and he jumps in the back seat and shuts the door and says, "Let's go, let's get out of here." I said, "What are you wanting to do? Where are we going?" He said, "Take me on to Linda's. You know, let's go on to Linda's."
Why would Pruitt commit a horrible crime like this? His wife said she doesn't know.
It's hard to believe that somebody you live with and that your kids are with is capable of doing anything like that. I wish I knew what happened. As far as I know, nothing would be desperate enough or to give anybody reason to do anything like that.
But she did wonder if her husband was having an affair.
He was gone a lot, and I just believed he was seeing somebody. That's what I thought. We didn't have a perfect marriage, and, you know, we talked about divorce. We'd been separated and everything. But as far as hurting anybody or doing anything like this, I never thought he was capable of it.
Throughout it all, Canada claimed he knew nothing about Pruitt's plans of faking his death and collecting $1 million worth of insurance money. He believed a drug deal was supposed to have taken place that night. And he doesn't accept any responsibility for the death of Charlie Bryant.
All I know is I didn't kill the boy. You know, I didn't hurt anyone, and I want to make that point clear. I had no idea that he was going to kill Charlie. My involvement was just being at the wrong place at the wrong time.
But police said Bobby Canada was Joe Pruitt's right-hand man.
He furnished the weapon that allegedly killed the Bryant boy and furnished transportation for Joe. So he was in it, the whole thing.
He's already in control of the situation. He has my gun. You know, he's already shot Charlie. What am I supposed to do?
According to Barton, he should have called the police.
And I said, "Well, what about your buddy?" When they started looking for Charles Bryant, I asked him why he didn't come forward, and he said he was afraid to.
Where I live way back in the country and the people that I've dealt with and stuff, if you know about something, you don't snitch on people. You don't tell on people because you know and I know what the story is. Snitches die.
On January 8, 1999, police arrested Bobby Canada as Pruitt's accomplice in the murder of Charlie Bryant. A few days later, dental records confirmed that the burned body originally thought to be Joe Pruitt was indeed that of Charlie Bryant. And when Dr. Blake re-examined the skull, he determined that the cause of death was a bullet wound to the head.
I didn't see the gunshot wound initially because of the burning and the fractures around the forehead and face.
But who pulled the trigger?
I did not hurt anybody. I haven't harmed anyone this whole time, in my whole life. You know, I've been in a few arguments and a few fights and stuff, but I've never hurt anybody. As far as beating somebody up bad, never.
Bobby Canada insisted that he had nothing to do with the murder of his friend, Charlie Bryant. But Kay Doan, who was with Canada the day Bryant was killed, said he's lying. In March 1999, Doan became the prosecution's lead witness in a grand jury proceeding to determine who would be tried for the murder of Charlie Bryant.
Now, did you see Mr. Canada here in the courtroom?
Yes, I did. He looks like a lawyer in a three-piece suit over there.
All right.
Bald on the top. He knows who he is.
According to her, it was Canada who picked up the gas can that was used to set the car on fire.
We stopped at Linda Riper's. He picked up a gas can.
Now, how big was it?
Probably, I couldn't really tell you.
You're showing about 3 foot, a 2 foot or something.
Yeah.
But Canada denied getting the gas. He said Pruitt had it.
It was probably in his car. That's all I can figure. I didn't see any gas or anything.
Doan testified that after they picked up the gas, Canada drove her to his cabin. There, she met Joe Pruitt.
He kind of come over and said, "This is Uncle John."
He'd tell people his name was John, Joe, you know, different things. And I just thought that was funny.
He said he's got some trouble. He needs to go park his car somewheres, and we're going to follow him. Well, I went for it. I was drinking, smoking, taking pills.
We was all feeling good.
Getting high and drunk was about the only thing that Doan and Canada agreed on. In stark contrast to Canada's story, Doan denied ever